Uh, Hi everyone, TJ from TJOmega.org here, and you should know the guy sitting next to me because it's freaking Troy Baker.
Freaking TJOmega.
Freaking Troy Baker.
A baptized name.
Well, it said that on Wiki, so I just went with that.
Awesome.
Right. This man just had like the best year I've ever heard of for a voice actor. I mean, everything I saw in 2013 was just amazing.
Thanks, man.
This is a loaded question because I know the answer, but just for anyone who doesn't, what was the work you were most proud of out of
Oh man.
so much?
I think you kind of take little nuggets away from everything that you do. And any chance you have to work in this business, especially, is kind of a win. But yeah, definitely the last 2 years. I look at that because how long we worked on these projects. Joel is The Last of Us. Was one of the greatest things that I think I've ever done. Not because of what I did that was so great, but just the scope of the project was so big. That was definitely a banner day, being Booker DeWitt in BioShock Infinite, because of how well those people related to that story and those characters. And then I got a chance to play the Joker,
Yeah.
So it was a pretty good trifecta for the year. And there's several other games throughout the year that I'm proud of as well.
Oh, yeah.
So.
It was hilarious watching the VGAs this year because you were up against yourself.
Yeah, it was funny. I don't know if that was like a joke from Jeff Keighley or what, but
were you worried about your competition? Or?
Yeah, I think I could have lost it to that Troy Baker guy.
Yeah, it was close.
But honestly, though, look at who else. I mean, Stephen Ogg, who was Trevor in Grand Theft Auto. I mean, that's one of my stand-up performances of the year. I thought he was great. And really in the females, I mean, you had Ashley Johnson, Courtney Draper, and a lot of people that were. It was just a good year for actors, for the VGAs.
You did mention the Joker,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't want to ask what has always been asked. So let me try and phrase this a little bit differently.
Okay.
Because the Joker is who he is.
Okay.
He's just such a kind of psychological character.
Sure.
How do you get in the mindset of someone just like that off?
That's the trick, man. Is you want to find. In a lot of ways, Joker is kind of like he's another Hamlet, or he's another Macbeth, he's another Richard III. It's like several characters have played him, or actors have played him before. So what are you going to do this differently? And a lot of times, which is true with those characters, what you have to do is honor the character that already exists, and naturally you will bring something new to it. Fortunately, we were doing something that fit within an established universe. We were doing something that you need to believe that pointed to Arkham Asylum and Arkham City.
Right.
You needed to believe that was the same Joker, so that I fortunately had Mark Hamill's template, who's my Joker, to kind of fall into. If I could just stay within those parameters and make you believe that was a younger version of it, then that was it. So growing up on that Joker made it a lot easier. Finding the mechanics for that and to do a believable performance.
Right.
That was kind of the trick. But it was so much to me was revealed of who the Joker was in the Killing Joke monologue, because that's someone who truly believes that what he is doing is just more of a highly evolved human. It's like, look, madness is the emergency exit.
Right.
Staying in reality with this hurt and this pain, it's terrible. Who would want to do that? So that kind of to me is the wedding stone. It's or the Rosetta Stone that unlocks so much about that character.
Yeah, because we're both Mark Hamill guys. We both grew up on that cartoon. But you've got another one coming up where you are opposite of
Kevin Conroy,
himself.
Assault on Arkham, and I'm amazed that I got a chance to do that. It kind of fits into the Arkham universe a little bit. Anytime you're asked to do a job, then you just hit the lottery. To be able to come back and to do a role like that is great. And again, Mark Hamill will always be kind of my Joker, but it's going to be a good one.
But the important thing is you kind of get the Joker. I hear that, and I believe it's Joker's. A lot of people play him. There's a lot of ways to play the Joker.
Sure.
I have heard bad Jokers before. Unfortunately.
I haven't heard me personally, I haven't heard a bad Joker yet. I've heard one that didn't resonate with me as much as others have. But that's what I love. He's such an amorphous character that really, he's kind of like cottage cheese. You can add anything to it and make it whatever you want, you know?
The Joker is cottage cheese.
There's your headline.
Right. That's right there in the video. Who's the better boss in Saints Row, you or Nolan North?
Nolan North, clearly. Are you kidding me? Easy. You get to play as Nolan North. When I found out that they were doing that for Saints Row 4, I was through the moon. I was like, well, that made my choice easier, because before it was like, who do I play as? Do I play as myself, or do I play as Laura Bailey? And there's several choices that you can have, but when for them to have the balls to have Nolan as himself, and a lot of his one-liners are just like idle stances and stuff are great.
Right. It's male voice 1, male voice 2, male voice 3.
Or Nolan North.
No, I played Laura in that game, so I kind of lucked out in the...
She's a pretty badass boss.
Oh, she is. She is. And it's a good decision, because if I played Nolan, I would have made the character look like Nolan. Just
True.
for the added gag. And then there's DLC where they're thrown in a gimp suit, so...
There is the
I
gimp
really
suit.
don't... I don't need to see Nolan North in a leather thong.
You don't need to, but you kind of... You don't need to.
No,
you
you
don't
don't need to, no. Now, I've heard you in panels before.
Okay.
Okay. And one of the things that fascinates me...
Like hitting them and trying to get out?
Yeah.
The panels like we have, I thought like the wooden panels of a house.
No, with the table and the talking and the people.
Gotcha.
Right. Something that occurred to me is you were very adamant about voice acting as just acting.
Yeah.
Now, to me, I separate the two, but not as a... Not to demean it in any way.
Sure.
You know, if a person can relate a character and get all the emotions out in just their voice without the facial expressions or the body language you would have on screen, that is an amazing talent that
Absolutely.
I have a lot of respect for. But I don't know, it felt like a different philosophy to me that I was...
I think and just as philosophy is personal to everyone, so is that. To me, what I think it's not demeaning in any way, but it's, especially for people who are looking into getting into it, it's so much emphasis on the voice part of it, when really it's no longer that at all. Like when we do the Avengers, okay, there's no performance capture, there's no face or anything. It's literally they're capturing our voices and they're putting that to animation for the show.
Right.
So that is the skill of voice acting. It is something that you have to channel all of that into one specific tool. But it's again focusing on the fact that it's acting. You have to be able to make those choices and make those decisions. And what I'm finding is the line of delineation that says there's actors and then there's voice actors. No, we're all actors. It's just some are operating in a different capacity. And I've never seen another delegation put on somebody else except for voice actors. No one says TV actor, blah, blah, blah. It's just, you're just an actor. And there's been some, Kevin Spacey and I are doing Call of Duty, and it says, Jeremy Irons played by Kevin Spacey, and then Private Mitchell voiced by. I'm like, well, we did the same thing, man. So it's just there's this mindset, and if I can educate, at least for my own sake, of just saying no, the voice is no longer a part of it, because maybe I'm silent. What does that mean? So it's I don't know.
The other thing I picked up in the panels was your thoughts on video games versus Hollywood right now.
Yeah.
Where, if I remember right, you were speaking of how games were just eclipsing Hollywood in terms of direction, imagination.
I think in terms of story, I think that TV and, well, first of all, as far as a medium is sake, whether it be TV or film or whatever, TV and film are very monodirectional. Okay, it's all passive, it's all observational. With a game, though, everything is happening to you and with you and for you. So you have cutscenes that are the same thing as like a film or whatever. It's something that you're observing happening, but then that informs the way that you're going to continue to move the story forward, that are based on your choices, your decisions, and you moving inside of this world. Movies don't have that. TV doesn't have that. I think there's a real deficiency in what's happening inside of film, at least right now. There's some great movies coming out. I'm not saying across the board, but I think that we're seeing people are still trying to throw up spectacle and think that's going to compel people, and it doesn't. TV, I think, has really become kind of the promised land right now for actors, for writing, and for story, because there's so much that's happening within that space that is compelling. And to have a medium that you can tell a story with different directors that has the same theme throughout is a huge challenge. And you have shows like Breaking Bad and Game of Thrones, and I'm watching Boardwalk Empire right now. And it's being able to do those things. And to me, the second, another complement to that is what's happening inside of games right now, just as far as character and story.
I found it interesting because as soon as I watched that panel, it wasn't just a few days later that, of all people to have the opposite opinion, was Shigeru Miyamoto.
Okay.
Mr. Nintendo.
Okay.
Because he went to E3 and he saw all these first-person violent shooter games. And he sees a lack of imagination in gaming. And he pointed to Hollywood as a source of places that were venturing out and being more imaginative. I just like hearing different opinions.
I agree. I could comment on what he said, and I think that I personally feel it's a very myopic view to say that all he sees at E3 are first-person shooters. Is the same thing as what Roger Ebert said about video games, about how they're not art. And I think that there is nothing that is there's no place for greater innovation right now than inside of video games across the board. And if you see that, then maybe you're the president of Nintendo, which they're doing great.
Yeah,
doing wonderful things right now.
Oh yeah. Since you've played, now this is interesting to me. You've played Superman, Batman, and the Joker.
Yeah.
That's kind
Superman,
of
kind of. I mean, in Infinite Crisis, it's a version of Superman.
Well, they're all versions.
Sure, but what I mean is like it's Nolan's downstairs right now. Nolan's played Superman, and so it's kind of yeah. What's the question?
What's the question? Well, right now you're also playing Loki.
Yes.
Hawkeye. Marvel or DC?
I grew up on Marvel, but to me, it's always you've got Batman and you have DC, which are two separate things. And same thing with Superman. Superman was Action Comics, and then they got absorbed into DC. So what's great is having friends within DC that are actually kind of showing me some of the stuff that I just glossed over. It was either Pepsi or Coke when you were a kid, and one was great, one was, I can't even hardly stand that. And Marvel was my Coke, and Coke was my favorite. But now kind of going back, and I'm like rediscovering some aspects of the DC world that are really, really cool. And then I'm digging it. It's almost like being a kid all over again and learning about, what do you mean you don't know who this superhero is, So it's great.
Right. We got a little time left, so final question.
Okay.
Off guard.
Oh my God, here we go.
In your experience and your views as voice actor.
Sure.
What's the most important thing you've learned from it?
Oh man. There's a difference between preparing and what that actually looks like. And I learned that lesson the greatest on the spoiler pause. Cool. If you're here, you're in it. On the scene where Sarah dies in The Last of Us. Because there's a difference between preparing for a scene and being prepared for it in many ways. I have prepared for that scene, but I wasn't prepared for it. And when you want to have something, a story and a scene that has two or more living people in it, the thing is a living organism, and you are so stuck inside of your own preparation and what you think it's going to look like that you are literally stifling. You're choking it. It's your preparation becomes an asphyxiation to that scene. That was a hard lesson for me to learn because I thought I had that thing locked, and I had to get outside of my own ego and outside of my own expectations for what I wanted from that scene and what I wanted for that scene. And I really was guided through that scene by Neil Druckmann. So understanding the character, understanding the story, that's great. Being able to know exactly where you're going to stand up and walk across the room and pour that glass and everything else, that's all fake, man. Those are all lies. Understanding the character will lead to the motivation for those actions. So that's one of the greatest things that I've learned, and I see people rehearsing, and I see people getting into character, and I just think it's all bullshit. You don't do that. You spend time understanding the core character in the story, and know where you're supposed to be inside that scene, and then everything should just kind of fall into line. And that's what works for me. It may work differently for other people. Like Harrison Ford, letter of the law, man. No ad-libbing, knows exactly where his marks are, everything, and he hits it, and he comes across great. Most of the time.
Most of the time.
We're not going to talk about the fourth Indiana Jones movie. But so everyone finds their own thing. I heard a comedian say that his dog never gets more excited than when he just says he wants to throw a ball. And he's like, I throw the ball, and he goes nuts, and he brings it back to me. Like, what do I do now? He goes, dude, just do this until I die. That's all I want. That's all that makes me happy. And he goes, and I think it's the success to life. It's Oliver Benjamin, or Owen Benjamin. He says that. He goes, that's the secret of life, is finding your throw the ball and do that. Which I think is a good way to throw the ball.
Throw the ball.
Throw the ball. Don't be the ball, just throw it.
Mm-hmm.
Be the ball when you need to be thrown. That can be violent, end up in a dog's mouth, slobber.
Yeah. So throw the ball, Joker's cottage cheese.
I think we covered a lot of ground here today.
I don't think we can go any farther with this.
Awesome.
Thank you very much for this.
Dude, thank you, man. Cheers.
Pleasure talking to you.
Cool.
Thank you very much for watching. And stay tuned, there's way more from Metrocon 2014 coming up.